Hello, everyone. This is Crazy American Lady. Welcome to Sissinghurst Castle Gardens. After the mad drive here on narrow and fast Kentish roads, of course the first thing we do is stop at the loos, and then, what's new? We eat. We take the fork to the left to the old outbuildings. Through this arch of the wall we get a view of the Wealden farmland where the food is grown for the restaurant in the old granary to the left. While we stand in line at the popular eating spot, a man is experiencing the unfortunate fate of trying to get his half-price dessert voucher and has been sent back and forth several times. During the next 10 minutes, we expect plates and knives to fly, but in the end, the restaurant crew has cosseted his bruised feelings. The gentleman has been rewarded with 4 delectable desserts. I remember the delightful names the British give these and imagine raspberry and gingerbread trifle, roly-poly pudding, lardy cake, and spotted dick. His wife has crept out from her hiding place behind the coffee saucers and appears to be as content as her husband. After the excitement, we stroll through some glorious springtime ground cover to the north of the entrance range, where the priest's house sits. It was built earlier than the 1570 house to which it was attached, and now dwells alone. During the Nicholsons' time, their sons Ben and Nigel lived here, and it served as the family dining room. Vita passed away here in 1962. We walk back to the western entrance range and enter the garden through the imposing gatehouse and archway. In 1570, Richard Baker built the last and biggest mansion here on this site. From the old house, he retained only this existing range with the long library, later renovated by the Nicholsons. And he also erected the tower house we see peeking behind. Around 1800, much of his mansion was demolished, leaving again this old entrance range, tower house, and some outbuildings still here. They seem destined to have survived all of the other grand structures. We pass through the tower house and turn left through the white garden. I love the early spring here because we get to see the bones of the garden. They allow us to envision the derelict space Vita and Sir Harold first discovered. The ruined walls, partial medieval moat, some nut trees, and old roses. Without the profusion of Vita's flora to distract, it is easier to detect the framework and order of Harold's design, which accommodated the off-center angles created by all the ruins. This 20th century lead statue of a virgin, created by the Yugoslavian sculptor Toma Rosandic, beguiles visitors from under the weeping pear tree. We can see the wisteria vine just in bud, looking like a pen and ink sketch against the wall. The orchard sits in the center of what was the east range of Richard Baker's mansion. There are mowed sways through the apple trees, daffodils, narcissi, and other woodland ground cover. The graceful nuttery is sporting delicate green leaves that lead the eye to the statue of Dionysus, god of fruitfulness and vegetation. Beyond Dionysus, we catch sight of the clean vertical lines of the lime walk, Harold's favorite creation, known also as the spring garden. The 3-legged moat still has 2 wide tree-lined sides, with the third side rising from the thick azalea bank to form the filled-in moat walk. At the end of the moat, some young contemporary revelers pose with Bacchus. Crisscrossing through the orchard, the famous roses that Vita loved are still only clouds in the dreams of the South Cottage, which sits among its own cozy gardens. Vita filled one side with hot colors of yellow and red, but on this April day, walls, ruins, and arches sprout hanging, climbing, and trailing clusters of pale flowers and spring greens. The Nicholsons slept in these bedrooms, and Harold's special writing room served him until he passed away here in 1968, after 6 melancholy years without Vita. His sensitive, intelligent, candid diaries were my bedtime reading on the shores of Loch Sissinghurst in the Western Isles, and I feel a warm affection for this diplomat who created loving law and order on this previously chaotic, run-down property. Vita, on the other hand, was the bursting kindred spirit of the gardens, and the bloom of her inner joy can be seen in other seasons. It is easy to see this as a garden of rooms and themes, divided by lawn, garden, hedges of yew or hornbeam, or brick-walled ruins. Here along the western range are just the beginnings of new blooms poking up around the top courtyard. This long brick gatehouse range offered some living quarters and the long library for the Nicolsons. The tower was built around 1574 as a display of status. It survived through the ravages of time, and 350 years later, Vita restored and altered the tower to create her private workspace. We climbed the spiral staircase to her sanctuary, where she wrote, painted, and rested. The time-worn furniture, rugs, and books, attesting to a life of creative virility. It is the most inspiring room I have ever seen. From the roof of the tower, we can see the oasts and farm outbuildings around the granary, the views across the downs to the north, the dog field and forest to the south, display the filmy, ethereal landscape that is England at its melancholy best.